Hello and welcome to another episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. I'm Jackie Tomes and we're having open conversations about building a property business that really creates not just cash flow but also freedom in all of its different forms, from people who've been there, seen it, been through the highs and lows and done it. And along those lines today we're going to be talking about the transformative power of consistent improvement. This is Kaizen and what it means for both yourself and your business. So just imagine if every small action you took today could compound into remarkable improvements tomorrow. And that's what Dave and Dom are going to be sharing today. You're really going to love this one. So without further ado, here is the transformative power of Kaizen.
Hello, Dom.
So I'm really excited today, again, always, because this is one of my favorite topics of all time, again, and it's the concept of constant and never-ending improvement. And by chance, the company I set up back in 2014 is called Kaizen Coaching Consultancy, because Kaizen, the word Kaizen, is a Japanese word, meaning constant and never-ending improvement. And it's all the little bits, little improvements that make the big difference. So it's usually used in a business context, and I think it might have been not Honda, but the other one, Toyota, that have a bit of a Kaizen philosophy of, bring lots of small ideas that you can improve in your role that's going to make a big difference to the company overall. So this concept, tell me why did you bring this one up now in this podcast of constant never?
So this was my idea, this one, and it was because Dom, you and I were yesterday running a session. We were running a role-playing session for some of our clients. It's one of the services we have. One of the ways we help people is a service called the £1 Million Method, supporting people to learn how to raise finance. And a big part of that is we do these monthly role-playing practice sessions where it's literally picking up moments that you would be talking to investors during your pipeline. And we're all there together for 3 hours and we get to see how people react and respond to something that for a lot of people is really pushing them out of their comfort zone. They don't necessarily enjoy it. A lot of people can do it with practice, like the elevator pitch part. Often people can get quite comfortable with that because they get to do the same thing and practice over and over again. Yes. But then you dive into literally a free range conversation where someone may be probing and be awkward, and how do you deal with it? And I was looking at our clients on that and just thinking, it's amazing the differences in response. And the fact that some people, when put into this setting where they're trying to do something, practice something that is maybe new to them or something they haven't done much before, and they're doing it in a setting where they've got people watching, and the different responses are amazing, because you get some people who thrive in it, some people who just see it as what it truly is, which is a totally safe testing ground where they can try things out to improve how they work, to improve what they're doing. And then you get other people who view it as quite a scary environment where they're having to put themselves out there and they're fearful of the reactions and responses of the other people around them, even though that is not, of course, what everyone's in the same boat here. Yeah. So I'm seeing these responses and thinking, gosh, like that attitude, that approach to that exact situation sums up how they're going to be approaching their businesses, approaching other things in their lives. And you can see those who just in this one setting are going to be able to thrive through constantly looking at how they can improve, constantly looking at whatever they're doing. They say, okay, yeah, great, there's another better way to do this, versus those who are maybe scared of it and then end up, and this was the realization, was that moment at which someone ends up getting stuck and getting held back because they're stuck because they can't evolve.
Yes.
So that was it. That's
why it came up
about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's something that stems from school, but when we try something and we don't succeed first time, often the reaction is to not go, I can't do this, I'm not going to try again. In fact, I was having a conversation with family yesterday about how I get out of breath going uphill, so I'm not going to walk uphill anymore. And it's like, but that's madness. Why would you not do that? And this is the thing. I mean, that's on a small scale, but on a bigger scale, people who are successful, entrepreneurs, people who run their own businesses, self-employed, they know that the more they try, that the better they're going to get. It's a growth mindset, effectively. They know that they're actually failure
Yeah.
is a necessary part of growth. And so it's fine to get it wrong. And just because you've learnt the theory, like you could learn the theory of driving a car, the fact is you're never going to know how to drive a car unless you actually get in the car and try it. So just knowing that failure is part of it and that you'll get better with every attempt. And sometimes you might plateau for a while, a bit like losing weight, you plateau for a while and then you go down again. It's just part of life. And we have to keep going because that's progress. And progress is happiness. The happiest people are all making progress towards the things that are important to them. So spot yourselves, guys, listeners, if you find yourself talking yourself out of doing something because you don't feel you're good enough, or and other people, you're judging yourself in comparison to someone else, you're stopping yourself from doing things because you kind of, that negative self-talk is getting in the way and holding you back and holding you down. That's kind of from a mindset point of view, but there's loads of tactics and things that we can go into. But what difference has it made in your life to have?
Well,
go on.
Yeah, I guess I would say, for a starting point, I came from a background of constant improvement because I was a musician.
Yes.
I was a professional musician and a classical musician. And the job of a musician when you're learning, especially when you get to music college level, is for 4 years of just constant improvement, right? That's all you're doing. You're spending hours in the practice room every time just trying to make that scale, that sound, that thing, just the minutest bit better. And you just keep doing until you try to reach some form of perfection, but you never get there. So I guess I was trained to the nth degree in this exact thing, because I then went beyond that from music college. Most people get to the end of music college and they kind of get into their professional career, and then they can do that thing you just said, the plateau. They can get to the plateau, and I never reached the plateau in my music career because I went into string quartet playing, where you don't plateau if you're trying to achieve in that arena, because that is one of the very, very few arenas in music where you do have to keep improving. Every top string quartet is always going and learning and improving and trying to get better. And it's the nature of that ensemble is to do that, and where we got to, we were top of our game. But when I left the quartet, we were still learning from going and having sessions and coaching and training, and I was there, I was 29, professional musician, touring the world, doing concerts, but still doing training with the best, the people who are better than me. And we were training with the absolute best in the world, the top quartets, and spending a week playing to them and getting that improvement from them, because we understood that that's the only way to evolve in that industry. But I guess I was trained to do it, and then I brought that across the business, and it's become a natural thing for me. But I don't think other people have that background of learning in that. And so that most people think that you're going to learn to learn to do your marketing because someone's going to teach you how to do it. Then they're going to tell you, oh, you just need to do ABC. Then you're going to do ABC, and it's going to be like a magic button you're going to press. You're going to press the money button, and then it's all just going to work and happen and come to you, and money's going to come to you, right? That's the magic, the dream people have. Now, I think there's varying degrees of that. Obviously, some people have a less expectation on that, but I see it over and over again where people go out there, they try something, they attempt it, and then it kind of doesn't work, or it doesn't work for a bit, and they might try one iteration.
Yes.
And then it's like, 4 months later, no, this isn't going to work, I give up on it. And I would say that's been the biggest impact for me, is that the only reason Jackie and I are where we are today with our business is because we've never done that. We've always treated the business as a constant engine to be tweaked and refined and improved and adjusted. You constantly look at what you're doing and say, it's not quite working. What tweak do I do next? What improvement does it need? Oh, how do I just adjust it so it works? And that is every aspect of the business, whether it's the operations or the marketing's not quite reaping results, or, I'm helping someone serving clients and we just feel like they're not getting the results. The profitability isn't quite what we expected. So why is that not the case? Go to the management accounts. What do we need to change? It's literally everything. It is, as far as I'm concerned, this is the business owner's greatest weapon. Like literally, if you're not doing this, you're missing out on the thing that's going to make you successful.
Yes. Yeah,
That's it.
absolutely right. It is odd, isn't it? Because there's similarities here between really successful business people and people who are very successful in sport, very successful in music.
Yeah.
Anyone who's a master of their craft, basically, they put in the hours, they put in the effort to constantly refine and improve themselves as well as their processes, and working on the business, not just in it. Because an awful lot of entrepreneurs, they're just so caught up doing the day to day, and they're not taking that time out to really work on the business, which is actually where the biggest leveling up happens. And I know you and Jackie are absolutely brilliant at that, and that's what I really admire you for. So how much time do you spend then, Dave, improving or working on the business or on yourself?
Ooh. Well, I would say what's fascinating about this is that the way I approach the business is that I try to improve as I go.
Mm.
I think if you're like, for example, I'm working on a deal analyzer. I have a client who says, I'm working with a client and they say, oh, I need this thing. And I can see the deal analyzer isn't quite doing it. So I'll be there. I'll say, okay, we can make that adjustment for you. But I never just make a quick adjustment for them. I will make the adjustment. I will then take the time to take that, add it to my main template, make sure it's incorporated there. And then I'll put a note for myself to get that over to the rest of my clients at some point, so that forevermore, that is the version that's being downloaded by clients, and that the improvement is being done. Now, it's a very simple thing, but I do think I do that as a generic rule wherever possible, or even it's just a matter of saying, in a process, I notice something that's not quite working. So then I'll make a note in Asana. These are the things I'm working. I'll have a take the 5 minutes it takes to bring my brain to bear on it, to say what could be better about that. How are we going to? What are the next steps we need to take? Set that Asana task for the team. In my case, that's the way we've ended up. It's like set it for the team to be talked about at the next team meeting. It's then there in the log. And then at the next team meeting, we take the 5 minutes it requires to discuss and say, okay, what are we going to do about improving this? And either we make a decision then and there, or the decision is, okay, we're going to need a longer meeting. Let's book in a half-hour call. Someone goes away and finds the time to do that sometime this month. And that is just always happening.
Right.
It's always happening.
So it's part of
every
business.
It's part of business.
Yeah, part of how you operate is to constantly improving systems, constantly improving processes, constantly improving ways of engaging with clients, customers, as well as working on yourself. As you said that, I was thinking, that's interesting. I don't do that quite so much on my own business. But in terms of improvement, like I learn probably an hour or two every single day. I'm reading books, consuming information, creating presentations, thinking about how I'd say things, conveying it to customers. But in terms of processes and systems, that's probably a downfall. That's an area that I'm not so good at, which is why I work with you guys. It's not necessarily my forte. Having said that, that's just an excuse, and I absolutely shouldn't buy into that. What I do and have been doing for the last 6 months is putting aside 90 minutes twice a week to work on my business and think about efficiencies and effective, improving aspects of it, whether it's a template for my PowerPoint presentations, or it's a way of getting marketing content out, anything that's going to improve, putting in PayPal so that we can get payments easier from customers who want to buy from us. The amount of steps we put in place so that before someone can buy from us, for most businesses, that's a massive issue. So making it easier for people to do business with you is a real game changer when it comes to improving your business. But also, so I guess there's two sides. There's working on your business and there's working on yourself. And I know you do both. So you're constantly working on the business. What about working on yourself? What do you do there? How much time?
Yeah, you're right. So I'm working myself is something I fit in around the business, morning and evening. Obviously, is the main times I give to it. And I would say I'm doing my learning elements maybe in the evening and first thing in the morning.
Yes.
So I'll be reading books, watching videos or whatever it is that I'm kind of into at that time to kind of improve my understanding and knowledge of myself. And that will usually be first thing in the morning is the magic time. I literally get up, I'll be in bed with a cup of tea, and that's when I'm reading. And I take the time and I build in the time into my morning to ensure I'm spending at least half an hour learning, reading, evolving myself. And then that learning is then always backed up by some sort of meditation to, if there's something that's come through what I've read that I think is interesting, and I think it's worthwhile, I'll then bring it into my meditation that morning. And even the meditation, if it's only 10 minutes, still there might be a minute or two, just like I've cleared the brain, I'm there, and I'll just contemplate whatever it is that I've just learned to try and integrate it. So that side, I guess, is just a regular daily routine.
Yes, I like that. There's doing stuff in the business, and there's doing stuff in terms of a good morning routine and a good evening routine. But obviously, you brought in meditation there, which is about being, and it's about disengaging. And this is why it's really important to have this constant improvement. Constant improvement doesn't mean what you're doing necessarily, because if you fancy just lying on a sun lounger in the sunshine and doing nothing other than lying there, that's a great way for the brain, in a way, to and body to disengage from the constant activity of life, of constantly doing, and just lie down and chill out and actually allow the brain to process. It's like sleep, that's when the brain sort of repairs itself and orders thoughts and things like that. So improvement doesn't always have to be about doing something. It can be about taking a strategic break to disengage from the work. And that's often when you get the best insights as well. You allow the brain to rest with meditation and sleep and those, hypnosis and those sorts of things. Just being is a great way to get better insights. That's when intuition, when you're empty of emotion and thought, that's when I find the best ideas pop into your mind, and that's when you can actually re-engage in business even better and make better improvements. So it's kind of one of those things that's build it into your business, because if you don't, it's never going to happen. And I remember I was reflecting before we did this podcast. I was reflecting, 7, 8, 9 years ago now, when I was in not so good a place, and I was thinking about the clients I was attracting. There were people who couldn't afford my services. That were people who were in similar situations to where I was, and actually that's why the business wasn't working. I had learned loads of stuff on a sales Sandler methodology, and so there was a process to follow. But guess what? It wasn't working for me because I was in the wrong mental state. And that's why it's so important to manage your state, mental state and physical state and emotional state, as much as working on the business. We have to balance all of those areas and improve all of those areas simultaneously, and not just thinking that if I do these things in business, I'm going to invest in property, I'm going to, do HMOs, and suddenly everything, the money is going to flow. It's like, no, it doesn't happen quite that quickly, unfortunately. Unless, there are always exceptions to the rule, but on the whole, we need to improve all aspects of who we are and who we are being and what we're doing at the same time to get the best results. And it's usually accumulated over time that means that we get the best results. Like for us, at the moment, business is really good, as you were saying before, and we're very fortunate. But it is, 4 years of hard work and hard but enjoyable work and improvements.
Well, I do think that this hard work thing is a misnomer, right? Because like hard work, people hear the words and they think, I don't want to do hard work, because actually it sounds hard and it sounds like it's a negative thing. But I think you've hit the nail on the head. Hard work just means really putting in time. When you say it like that, you can still enjoy it. It just means you actually do have to take the time, use the discipline, use your willpower, bring to bear your intelligence, your rational mind, and bring to bear every tool at your disposal, rather than just coasting and kind of expecting things to happen just without anything coming from you. And that's, again, I see it just over and over again with people, that you do need to put in the time and you do need to put in the brain. And if you don't engage those parts of that can say to yourself, I know this can be better, and I'm willing to open my mind to anything that will allow it to get better. And I'm going to put in that headspace and time to do it. If you're not willing to do that, then nothing's ever going to get better, and it will feel bad. It will feel negative, and it will feel hard, because what you're going to end up doing is you end up slogging. You end up just bashing against the same problem over and again, but just feeling like, this got to get better at some point, but you're not really engaging with the problem. And I think that stems slightly from when I think about myself, when I've hit those moments and see it in others, when you come to like learning and engaging with this realization that things can be getting better and constantly improving, it does require you to also realize your own ignorance
Hmm.
and realize you don't know it all,
Yeah.
and realize that this isn't a bad thing,
Yeah.
and that not knowing it all is not a flaw. It's not a feeling of not being good enough.
Yeah.
It's actually just the natural state of every human being on the planet. No one knows it all. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter who they are. They don't know it all. So what I think happens when I see it is that people head towards realization of ignorance, but then they get to the fear of, but if I don't know it, I don't. What am I going to do? And like, oh, that means I'm not good enough. And this is all subconscious
Yes.
programming that kind of makes them feel that. Because what it means to them, if they don't know what to do, is it's like, well, then it could all fail. Then if I don't know what to do, it might never work. And like the fears start to come in, and they're different for every human being. And then the result of that fear is that you then knuckle down, you buckle up, and you go, nope, it's fine. I can cope with this, and you end up in a place where you're not open.
Mm.
You're not open to the learning, as it were. You're not open to being on a session and just putting yourself out there,
Right.
because you'd rather just stick with the knowledge you know, which you're comfortable with, which helps to control the fears that you're feeling because you're in your comfort zone, and it helps you to kind of stay in a place where you feel like you know what's going on and you know what you do know, and that's enough, and that means you're good enough and you know enough,
Mm.
and you're going to make it work with that field of
Yes.
knowledge, and
Yeah.
that is the moment at which you become stuck.
Yeah.
You become held in place. So
Mm.
we all talk a lot about fear and things and overcoming fear in this, because actually I feel like that is the big enemy that we're all up against.
Yes.
It's our
Yeah.
own fears
The
that
fear.
hold us
Exactly.
back. Uh, yeah, and
And that's
so I
because partly,
that
sorry,
yeah.
is that
No, no,
70,
carry
according
on.
to studies, 77% of our thoughts are negative. So our brain is programmed to keep us safe. So although the brain, every thought is to create gain, actually it's also to keep us safe. And so that amygdala, the part of the brain that's shaped like an almond in the middle, that's part of the oldest part of the brain, the reptilian brain, that is the bit that is trying to keep us small and keep us safe. But the fact is, we need to learn to and program ourselves to not override it, but well, yeah, probably override it, reprogram it so that we are
I think it is.
functioning at a greater level, and that we're knowing, because ultimately we do know that we are safe. In this environment, nothing really bad is going to happen. If you were to choose to do absolutely nothing at all, eventually someone will pick you up and put you in a mental hospital, but you'll probably still be fine. So ultimately, we have to work on improving the way we think, because it's our
Yeah.
self-talk, which is the ego mind, which is, we're talking to ourselves. That's thinking that happens to us every day, or not to us, but we're chatting away in our mind like we're doing now. Um, and that's the bit that if you haven't mastered it, it will hold you back. It'll bring you down, and so we've got to get that bit right. And that's why the constant, never-ending improvement in all areas of life is what elevates that. Sorry, I went off.
Mm.
I
No, no,
interrupted you.
I think that what I'm from what you've just said as well, what I see is the main issue being that when we get fearful, um, we basically shut
Mm,
down and we don't want to
mm,
evolve because it's taking us out of our comfort zone. So, what do we need to do for me when you talk about overriding and reprogramming? Is the job is you've got to reprogram your perspective on the fear.
mm,
And the fear in this case, in most cases, is the fear of failure.
mm. Yes.
Most people are struggling with the fact that if they do this thing, it could mess up and it's going to go wrong, and then what ifs, and really it's just the fear of things going wrong. And actually, then you basically back up that fear, because then things do go wrong and
Mm,
you don't do very well, and then you basically go, yeah, I knew it. Like your
mm,
subconscious goes, I put myself out there, it didn't go well, I felt really bad about it, I knew it, I shouldn't have done that,
mm.
right? And you pretty much reinforced the
Yes.
negative side of it.
Yes.
But if we can flip it on its head, and this is what we did in our company as well, come on to how we did that in a second, but if you
Mm,
can flip it on its head and turn failure into a positive, every failure is actually the stepping stone to success. Every failure is the thing you have to go through, the exact thing you needed to go through in order to achieve your end result, which is the success you're looking for. And as soon as you start looking at failures through that lens and you start adjusting your self-talk so that as soon as a failure occurs, instead of going, that was crap, you actually have a self-talk that goes, brilliant.
Yes.
Now I know how to get it better. So the next time that one doesn't happen and that one's ticked off the list, you create an entirely different perspective, put that in place, and now you've reprogrammed the amygdala. The lizard brain can start to just trail off because you've changed the fear into a different thing. It's no longer fear of survival, it's now positive, and the fear no longer starts coming up because failure is now good.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's the most, I think one of the best things I've ever learnt is that failure is part of success, and difficulties and problems are there as a gift to help you learn and grow and awaken. And then life, everything in life is like, wow, this is amazing, this is miraculous. And I have to say, at the moment, I do feel so blessed every single day, and that's because every difficulty is really good. and equally the opposite is also true. So every talent that you have has a downside. If you're really confident, it kind of takes away that confidence from other people, and so they're maybe less open and confident with you because you have that confidence, and they feel that they don't. So just seeing everything as much as possible as being good for you, and seeing the opportunities and the possibilities within it, then that's a great way to look at life.
So we implemented this idea in our business. Obviously, it's quite hard to do that. It's very hard to get that across to the people you're working with and the team. And especially what we found is working with those, we work with a lot of Filipino VAs, and they have a very different culture there. And I think it is everyone is scared of failure there. And there's a lot of kind of like covering up of failures because they just feel like they're going to get fired, basically. I don't think they have a good culture in their business there for this type of thing. One of the biggest things we implemented in the business was a concept called black box thinking. I can't remember the book. I'm going to check with Jackie.
Box thinking.
Nailed it. And the black box thinking, for anyone who hasn't come across this before, it is the theory that airlines use to make sure they're getting safer and safer. The black box being the record that is being kept in the cab, so that when there's a crash, they can recover the black box and see what actually happened, and then they go through all the data and they improve. It's like every time there's a problem, they want to make sure that same problem never occurs again.
Yes.
And they have this simple attitude towards it, which is just every time something happens, you just got to go through, and there's no judgment, as it were, and in the analysis, in the approach. It's just like, this was a flaw in the system. What do we do to make that flaw never reoccur? Yes. And when we implemented this in our business, the job was to make everyone feel super comfortable with failure, to realize that as soon as they failed, that's not something to be shouted at and get angry about and annoyed about. It's actually something that it then combines with the culture of candor, which I know we talked about in other ones, that is just confronted straight on, very directly, of just like, this didn't work, it didn't go well, that's fine. So what do we need to put in place to ensure that doesn't happen again? And then it goes immediately through. You're never on the failure. You're never stuck on that. You move straight through to problem solving, straight through to the evolution and constant improvement. Yes. And that has been revolutionary, because that's why I said at the beginning, it's our biggest weapon. When you get the whole company doing that, you get every person starting to think like that, you get to the Toyota mentality, the Kaizen approach of, right, if everyone's doing that, the whole thing will just lift without your effort. Right. You'll just start improving because every team member is going, oh, well, that went wrong. Let's improve the process, instead of it all being on you. Yes. And everyone's ready to do that. And then no failures are being hidden. So you're able to see them and they're all coming up very quickly. And, you've got no hidden nastiness in the background that is being, sloshed away. And you'd find a year later that you've been losing money and something you didn't realize because someone wasn't wanting to bring it up. And it's just, it's so empowering.
Yes. So it is the way of the future. Sadly, an awful lot of organizations have yet to embrace that. And there's still a whole load of arse covering. It's always about, looking at making yourself look good and blaming things on others. Whereas actually, I've seen a number of books coming out these days with the concept of actually failure is good and allowing people to make mistakes. And even, the Google and other companies that allow their engineers to work on anything they like one day a week, but at whatever things they do work on, obviously Google get to keep. But that's proven and given them, so much benefit and increased revenue and various amazing things like Google Maps apparently came out of that and various other things. So by allowing time each week, I would say, to work on the business, but also just to take time out as well and improve yourself and reflect on what's going well, what's not going so well, how can things be improved, what can I do differently next time, how much more time to just be to relax, maybe to not work so hard do I need in order to optimize who I'm being, how to optimize my team as well and empower them and give them more autonomy, which is what people love. Freedom is a massive motivator, so giving people more autonomy. So thinking through and taking that time to reflect on the week that's gone and plan the week ahead so that you're not going to burn out, so that you're constantly improving the way of operating. Because remember, business is there to solve problems for your customers at a profit, and therefore get really efficient and effective at it. So it's kind of essential business practice, really, is to constantly be improving in all areas. And I love that black box thinking. Is there any other things like that? Any other examples that we do in our business?
Yeah, I would say if you take that to the next level, you've got to combine the personal development aspect alongside the business aspect. The emotional response system is so ingrained in all of us that you can't just go in and automatically sit there and be like, oh, this was fine, we lost £2,000, no worries, it's all happy days, because unfortunately we're not programmed like that. So I would say we have taken that to the next level, and we try and work again with our clients on this when they're building their teams. It's the assessment of everyone's capabilities and looking at people and saying, yes, where are their strengths and weaknesses? And we use wealth dynamics for that. So then you're constantly iterating and working out how is that person going to be playing to their strengths and mitigating their weaknesses. And that is a constant iteration of improvements as well, because you put someone in a role, you don't necessarily get it right. But as long as every time you try something, you're making it a little bit better and patching up, something that wasn't quite working, it will get better and better and better. And eventually it will be working, good enough. It's never going to be perfect. Let's put it that way. Everyone is fallible. Everything is fallible. So there's never going to be perfection, but you do get it to a point where the business operates beautifully and efficiently as much as a business can. So I would say, it's like looking at people holistically and saying, are they right for the role they're in? And there does come a moment where it might be someone's not right for that role altogether, and that they might not be right to work with your company. But that's never a thing to be annoyed about, and never a thing to be angry about. So then looking at people holistically also includes learning to manage yourself so that the emotion doesn't automatically just jump in and start controlling the situation. And I think I've noticed that the people who struggle the most to build a team are those who also struggle the most to manage their own emotions. Because when they're interacting with their team, they too often allow failure to cause negative reactions such as anger, which isn't obvious, but they're allowing anger to come in. The anger then influences their approach to the team member. The anger then also definitely feeds across to the team member's response themselves, because they can feel it from you, they can hear it from you. They will then go into survival mode, and as we've covered on many other podcasts, survival mode immediately reduces problem-solving capability, it reduces your flow state, it reduces every capability you have. You actually go into a much less capable mode. So you're actually immediately taking what was potentially a weakness and actually making that team member even weaker, and even more incapable for you. If you were struggling, if they were struggling with something before, they're going to definitely struggle with it now. And you've then also created a scenario where your team member is going to start to freeze and start to not perform and not want to work for you and actually be scared to bring things up. And you've just pretty much destroyed your team right there with a reaction. And there's very few team members in the world, there's very few people in the world who can cope with a boss, who can fly through a boss who just constantly gives them negativity and doesn't help them to flourish. So those are the types of people I see who then end up forging through team members, and it's just one team member after another. They're not good enough, this isn't working. And then you get to the point where you feel like, again, going back to the magic button thing, well, I'm doing all the right things, but for some reason my business, I'm not able to grow this business, I just can't do this, I'm giving up on it. But clearly businesses manage it, and they manage it by coming back to the self And in this case, I would say for us small businesses, the quickest, most efficient route to that freedom is to take your failure being a good thing, bring it through to yourself and start to manage your own emotions around failure, and then bring that through to the team members you're working with, so that you're not just creating the culture of failure being a good thing, but you are able in the moment to bring positivity, and not false positivity, actual positivity, to a situation where something has gone wrong. And you can look at it with a great open mind, and the emotion of anger, annoyance, frustration, irritation does not become the predominant one in that scenario. You immediately jump to, fantastic, what's the solution? Where are we going next with this? And let's see if we can get this team member performing at a higher level for me, right? Because that's it. That's what they require. They require you to, the best managers are the ones that take team members and lift them up and help them, support them into high performance modes. And that's your job, not just to get on their back and be angry at them.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to people being in a crisis, maybe, they've grown a business, but actually for whatever reason, something's happened and they're in, they're losing money each month, and they're in that state of sort of going in on themselves and collapsing in. What would you say are the things that they can do and be and to get out of that? Because it does happen to certain businesses, certain companies. We know of someone recently. So yeah, what are the things? Because I've got a few ideas, but I'd love to hear yours on what they can do. Because when you're in the trenches, it's very difficult to kind of see the light and get out and pull yourself out. So what is it that they can do?
So I'd say for me, it's probably 2 or 3 major things. Number one is the realization, the awareness that you're in that state, and the immediate shift to start looking after yourself more. So you immediate reprioritization, where you might have been starting to let go of meditations, let go of the me time, let go of those things. It's actually the willpower and determination to realize that those things are going to be the biggest support and help at this moment in time. And if you actually do the opposite, the tendency of the ego is to do the opposite, and to start saying, no, I don't have time for that. I just got to work on this, just got to solve this, just got to work. And the problem is that, as we all know, that means you end up in the trenches, in the weeds. You can't see the woods for the trees, and you literally can't see the solutions because you've lost your perspective on the business. So you've got to step back. You've got to take the time for me and keep bringing yourself out of the business to keep that open mind and stop from getting overwhelmed by it. And that's a whole different problem, the overwhelm. So if you immediately realize and prioritize me is the first thing. And then the second thing is then starting to block in the time, more of it, for the bigger picture strategic analysis of your business. Because if things aren't working, that means there's a problem, which means you've got to step back and look at the whole. You've got to start seeing really with clear perspective what's not working. And if you can't see it, then the third thing is look for a sounding board. Look for someone who can help you with that, who can bring it to a mentor, bring it to someone who you respect, who's got a good brain, who gets business, who gets what's going on, and take the time to say, I am not fine. I'm not seeing it. I don't get what's wrong. Can you please just talk this through with me? Let's work it through and help me find the perspective to what is it that's not working here, so I can then make the changes needed. Because it can work, right? It's just someone, if you're not seeing it, someone else can help you see it, and someone else, especially who hasn't got the emotional drain, and has the right perspective without, and then to listen to that person and not think that you're just right. So then that brings us to the belief, realization of your own ignorance thing, right? That I don't know everything, and I should be, I'm not making this work. So it's time for someone else's perspective to be important to me, and realize that I might have to take that with some faith. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because they're exactly mine as well. In short, I mean, we're kind of discussing it from a level of, crisis. And the fact is, if you're constantly improving, then you won't get to that crisis point, because you'll catch it earlier, because you've got the right habits and ways of thinking in place that mean that you're going to catch it before it gets to that crisis period. Having said that, things do occasionally happen. All I was going to summarize it and go, you cannot kind of, in a way, think your way out of a problem. You have to act your way out of the problem. So by taking action, you're changing your physiology, you're changing your emotions by actually doing something about it. So because you can think all day long and your thoughts go round and round and round, but the fact is, if you go and do something about it, so you go and speak to someone, you go to you surround yourself with people who can help you, maybe you get a therapist, whatever it might be, get a mentor, get a mastermind, that's action, which is going to help without a doubt. And also we have to have the courage to do that, to go, look, I need help. So going from that inaction place of fear, so fear holds you in inaction, to that level where things start to change, which is courage, being courageous in the face of fear and going, okay, I don't know the answer to this. I'm in a dire strait financially or whatever else it is. And I'm going to be courageous by going to get and seek help from other people who'd love to help, by the way. That's the best way to deal with it. And the third one, although it's related, is surround yourself with the right people, because people are bodies of energy, and we get influenced by others. And so by being consistently around others who are helping us elevate ourselves and showing us what is possible and learning and growing together, that is one of the best, or probably the best way to influence your success, is to surround yourself with the right people. So those are the thoughts.
Just to add, you mentioned the word inaction quite a lot in your second point there, and I just want to clarify, from my perspective, inaction for me means inaction on the relevant thing, because I think quite a lot of people get into a state where they are not acting on the right things, but they're just putting all their efforts into the treadmill of the wrong things. And that's really hard to see, because you actually feel like you're doing stuff and taking action, but you're actually standing still because you haven't found the perspective to realize I need to take action doing these other things. So I guess when I think about that action thing, it's like action to the different action, new action. You need to realize that the action you're taking right now, if you keep it going, then that's the same as nothing. It's the same as inaction, because you're not taking action on the solution. You're just carrying on the treadmill that's going nowhere. So that I've definitely seen that over and over again. And the problem is your brain tells you, but I am doing loads. I'm really working hard. Why is it not working? But that's because you have decided you've buried your head. You've decided not to pick it up.
A particular way of doing it, which isn't working, and you think it will, but so you keep doing it. But then that is the definition of madness: doing the same thing, expecting different results. Yes, quite good. So, in summary, then main points. What would you say are the takeaways for the audience to get from this section around Kaizen and constant, never-ending improvement?
So, I would say the biggest takeaways are, for me, number one, realizing that this is literally going to be the most powerful weapon in your arsenal in both business and life. And not just because it's going to help things always get better, but also because it actually feels great. Once you start doing it all the time, it's the most fulfilling way to live life. So it's a mixture of personal feeling and success creation almost. And then you just hit goals quicker and easier because they're coming sooner. And that also feels great. So regardless, it's going to be one of your most powerful weapons in your arsenal. Another thing I would say is that a realization that we all have different strengths and weaknesses, but in theory, we all have unlimited potential. As a human being, we have different skills and techniques and talents, but if you put your mind to something, what takes one person an hour because they're very talented might take another person 5 hours because they're less talented, but they can do it. And what takes one person like half a month to learn and master could take another person a year to learn and master. But you are actually capable of almost anything, like seriously unlimited potential, especially when it comes to just making sense of things like improving your business and growth and success. You've got to have that realization that I have unlimited potential, and the only moment that I fail is the moment I decide I can't do something. That's the moment I've failed. The moment I've decided I can't do this, so I'm going to give up. That's the moment of failure. Actually, if you can switch it on its head, go to the Kaizen mentality, the constant improvement, it's just a matter of saying, that was my next stepping stone to success. That last failure, that last attempt, my next stepping stone to success. And whilst that person took 10 steps to get there, it might take me 50. But I can get there because I have unlimited potential. And I just need to keep approaching it with the right mindset, which is constant improvement.
Yes, exactly.
That's my biggest takeaways.
I think that's lovely. And just to say it in my own words, progress is happiness. Happiness is fulfillment, and it needs to be a way of living. Is that you're constantly improving? Because if you're not improving, you're being left behind. Because the rest of the world is changing. In fact, it's changing faster and faster, especially with the rise of AI and various other things. And it is a joy to constantly improve and master your craft, as to your point of finding something you're brilliant at and get even better at it, because that's what the world needs. It needs more experts in their field who are passionate about what they're doing, rather than someone who's kind of average at physics, as the comedian on Diary CEO said. He says, no one needs another average physicist. We need amazing people. So yeah, master your craft and see it as a way of living. A growth mindset is the way to look at life and always be improving.
So what small actions can you take today that, if done consistently, can transform into amazing results in the future? If you don't already know, my first ever book, Focus Your Way to Freedom, was an instant Amazon #1 bestseller. Woohoo! So thank you so much if you purchased a copy of your book during our launch back in June. If you haven't already got a copy of your book, head to property-strategy.com/book to find out how you can get hold of your copy. And it's all about doing property deals whilst traveling the world, but without all of the stress and overwhelm along the way. If you have already read the book, would really appreciate a little review on Amazon to share your experience. So for now, just think about how you can master yourself and the consistent small steps every single day to take you in the direction of freedom. Have a great week ahead.